All right, fellas, and it seems like we're ready to go and get this party started. What's going on, everyone? And I hope you're all doing well. I see we still have a lot of viewers filing in here. Great to see you guys, and thanks for joining us this evening. And welcome to the Xbox Roundtable Podcast. This is episode number 184. The place Sundays for beer, buds, and Xbox talk. You know, all the good stuff, right? This is Invader, and guys, we're almost there. We're almost at E3. It's almost upon us, and you know what? Xbox show is just like right around the corner. We're really excited. It's a very exciting time this time of the year, and the panel will be giving our predictions for, as to what Xbox has planned and but just generally what they're going to show, and we're all just really looking forward to it. As well, we'll touch on some of the recent PlayStation news. God of War Ragnarok and Gran Tourismo 7 are now, well, they seem to be cross-gen from recent announcements. Does PlayStation really believe in generations? Also, some interesting rumblings about BioShock 4. However, before we dive into all that, let me introduce everyone on tonight's panel. And starting off tonight, our guest, we welcome back Newf Nukem. Hey, buddy. How's it going, my very explosive friend?
Boom, boom, kaboom! It's Newf Nukem in the TXR room. Good to be here. I appreciate the invite. It's an exciting time. So, yeah, like the rest of us, man, just can't wait to get into it and certainly see what comes down the pipe starting on, well, I guess Saturday, but Sunday most particular for the Xbox show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it, my friend. I mean, there are lots of shows that are going to be happening, but man, everybody's keeping their eyes peeled on that Xbox show, especially, all the hardcore Xbox fans. So it's very exciting times. Next up here, we'll go over to the TXR regulars, and Tim, hey buddy, we got you pried away from the big fight tonight to talk about some games.
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing about an hour, and basically, I ordered the fight, so I'm going to be seeing the fight, but I definitely wanted to give my predictions for E3 and, some exciting times. Newf is, thank you for coming down. Awesome. I've been on his show. It's a great, great job he does. And, just like I said, well, it's better than nothing. We're going to just, give our predictions, and then I probably will leave after an hour, and then we'll continue with the show because I did order the fight. But, I didn't want to miss this one. Very exciting time. 7 days away. Seems like Phil's now even on the hype train. We got a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Well said, my friend. Centurion buddy, hey, how you been?
What's up, guys? It is Sunday. It is time for TXR. What have I been doing? Okay, so I have been working probably like 60, 70 hours a week. Had an opportunity come up at my job that I just couldn't pass up. So I've had like time to game, but I have been kind of doing different gaming. I've been checking out the game Black Sad, and somehow I got into the Fast and Furious Crossroads. And I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about that game right there. It is definitely not worth the original asking price. I'll at least put that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I've seen that.
I picked it up for $15. I'm not disappointed in my purchase, but I will definitely say that there is some weirdness. Like, the story is good. It's a good Fast and the Furious story. But the driving mechanics, forgive me, are a little all over the place. I hate using the word janky, but I mean, you got to have a little bit of forgiveness when you're trying to the controls. I mean, you're constantly turning into stuff. And then there was one mission that I was driving along, and for some reason, boulders just kept coming out of nowhere as if the world around you is just falling apart.
That sounds pretty random, actually.
It is extremely random. It is extremely random. That's why I'm just like, for $15, it's a fun experience. I'm having a blast, but wow, I almost feel bad for anybody who dove head first day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. I've been kind of tempted. There's a lot of the Warhammer DLC and games on sale.
Yeah, if I could ask you about that, since I've been surfing around that Warhammer sale, can we ask you real quick, how is Necromunda for you? a hired gun, because I mean, you ask one crowd, the game is a flaming dumpster fire. You ask the other crowd, it's a gym, it's a gym of a game, diamond in the rough with a couple patches. It'll be a very good game.
Well, Necromunda Hired Gun itself isn't on sale. I mean, there happens to be like there's a whole bunch of
No,
Warhammer
actually,
announcements.
they are discounting it.
Yeah,
They're selling it.
yeah, it's on a slight discount, but I mean, the game itself isn't like what you would call a premium title, because it's about what, like $50, something like that. So
Original price is $39.99. Right now they have it, I think, for like $33. I know it's like a very generic discount, but I mean, dude, I don't know why. I just think it's so funny. Like, you summon your dog with a squeaky toy.
Yeah. Just to sum it all up, I'm still playing through the game. I'm about halfway through. I'm purposely taking my time. And honestly, I like the game. It has really... The shooting is... the combat itself is really fun. The engagements as well. I mean, being a Warhammer 40k aficionado, I really like what they're doing. I'm not going to spoil anything, but either way, it's fun. It's a fun game. I have seen some issues, like you've been saying, Centurion, about, I think there was a lot of
I've heard more complaints about frame rate.
Yeah, frame rate. Actually, I see Mav in the chat, and I think he was having some of that. I think he bought the game and had some frame rate issues there. But I don't know. I haven't experienced it, so I can't really say. I mean, I can only
just go and do your bounty missions and come back to the Hive City and kind of break down your equipment and gear up and go back out and look for more bounties, or is there an actual like story campaign?
Okay, so it's there are campaign missions, like there's a story set along, and then there are missions that you go out and collect bounties on, yes. So, and you can do bounties for like specific guilds, specific cults, and specific groups of gangs and so on. And you increase your rep the more that you are successful with each like gang bounty. So it's kind of interesting. Again, I'm still playing through, but so far I have good impressions of the game. It's not the flashiest game, it's not the largest game, but it does some cool things. So I'm kind of looking forward to going through it. I'll probably have a review out for it the next week, but it's looking pretty cool. All right, we got some pretty cool people here. It's been about cool filing in. We got PyCon Fusion, HTK, of course I said Mav there, Mr. Fun Speculation himself, Toolman, Mike, NLG, hey buddy. Who else? ATL, Spida, Other Zinc, Riley, thank you all for being here. We got more people filing in minute by minute. Let's see. We're still waiting on Shockley. But you know what, guys? Let's kick this off and talk about what everybody's probably tuning in and waiting for. And that's our thoughts on the Xbox and Bethesda E3 2021 show predictions. And you know what, guys? We're finally here with only a week away from the big event. So let's, we'll go around the panel and hear what our final predictions are and what we'd like to see at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. Let's see. You know what? I will start off with Centurion here. Buddy, what do you think we'll see appearing here? And what would you like to see? Some desires or maybe some realistic expectations?
Oh, man. Realistic expectations. That could go hand in hand. I have realistic expectations. I want everybody else to have realistic expectations. Like, I understand everybody wants Xbox to bring the thunder. I feel like Xbox, in my opinion, at least the way I feel, has been bringing the thunder. They've shelled out billions of dollars for studios. We know they have games in the works. They've also been putting out extra money for third-party deals to kind of help kind of alleviate a little bit of this gap we're going through with waiting for some of these first-party studios to start putting out content. I'm just excited for, in the end, what Microsoft is going to give us. And I mean, who can't be excited generally for it being E3 time? I mean, not to sound cheesy, but yeah, it's games and it's gaming in general. But one thing I love is coming on Twitter and seeing all the photos from Tim Dog, 108 Dragons, everybody who's been to E3 and seeing all these photos and actually seeing the community at its best. And I feel like E3 is a really good time to actually kind of see the community at its best, because you see all these people from all different walks of life coming together because of their passion and joy in gaming. And that is just, for me, that is what E3 is all about. So I don't really ever put some high expectations. I remember one E3 I walked in totally praying for Fable. I didn't get it, but I also didn't walk out of there going feel like the thing was trash. I got Fable, I think, 2 years later. So I'm just happy to just kind of have these events going. It's good to see E3 is back in the swing of things. We were all concerned that E3 was going to slowly go away, but E3 is definitely wanting to kind of come back swinging. So let's see what they got to offer. If we're going to make any predictions, though, let me see. I think you guys may have showed it to me earlier. There's some rumors now going on that Microsoft might actually get Crytek. I really don't have any weight on that. Do you guys think there's any validity to that myth?
I'll step in and I'll say that it's fake, just because the fact that, just look at where it's coming from, 4chan, you can't really...
Oh, yeah, I know, yeah.
The thought, I mean...
It's also coming on the heels of another acquisition rumor, and that's what tells me it's fake. But go on, Invader.
Oh, no, and actually, you just brought up a really good point, Tim, is that, funny enough, around this time of the year, we usually get a bunch of false information.
Oh, dude, this time of the year, the rumor mill is just cranking it out, which is why I never really pay too much attention.
And it's interesting too, because it's been kind of quiet for the most part about certain things. There doesn't appear to be very many leaks from, we have no idea what we're gonna get really. But yeah, there was an interesting rumor that was also floating around today that seems to have more credibility because it's coming from Windows Central Jez Corden, and on a Discord server he had stated something about what was it, that he had it on good authority that Xbox had bought IP, and there was a good chance we'll see one studio acquisition announced at the show. So I mean, who could it be, right?
So if I was to kind of start throwing random names out there and stuff like that, I just want to personally say, because I still read all the articles, if there was anything I want to see, I almost want to see what's going on over at WB Games. There is a lot of great talent and studios and developers over there, and I don't want to see that go to the wayside just because somebody made some bad business deals. I would really like to see them get bought out by somebody so that way they can continue on with their passion. And if anything, I would, at least off the top of my head right now, that's one thing I'm looking forward to, at least in E3, is hopefully maybe seeing what's going to happen to some of these franchises that are kind of stuck in the purgatory that AT&T created for them.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, there's a couple of scenarios I could work out here. I mean, obviously, we don't know what Studio Jez is really talking about here. I would find it personally interesting that they would choose to announce a studio acquisition because this is the first show between both of them and Bethesda. Personally, I would have thought that they would have kept it maybe after, for an XO event later on in the year, but...
No, that's actually a really good point. This is the first event with Microsoft, technically with Bethesda, so it would be actually asinine to think that you would want to somehow kind of water down that experience with having an announcement that would just kind of drown out the fact that Bethesda is technically there on the Xbox stage.
But if I had to put a bet, let's say they do announce a studio, and anybody in the chat listening and, put in your bets, tell us who you think it could be. Personally, I mean, there have been a lot of rumors over the past year about who Xbox have been dealing with. For example, there was a lot of chatter coming out of Poland. Could it be CD Projekt Red? Their stock has fallen significantly since Cyberpunk's release and, what's been going on there. But there's all kinds of amazing talent there. For example, the Farm 51, they seem like a very credible studio, a decent size. I could see there's some IP there, and I think they would be interesting to get. There's all kinds of talent. There's all kinds of studios, but what are my realistic expectations? I don't know. It's hard to say. I think people. There's a lot. Go ahead, Tim.
I just think when we do this, it's okay to make predictions and be wrong. It's like I talked about that on Twitter today. People are afraid to make predictions and get into a gotcha moment. It's not about that. Predictions are just kind of like what we want, maybe a little bit based on rumor and just a prediction. Like if Jez makes a prediction, he can be wrong. So I just wanted, like everyone on the panel, when we do this, I would just ask to say, if you make a prediction, don't be afraid that if it's wrong, because you know what? It's E3, it's fun. That's what we do. It's not, I get these people like, these Sony guys that want to catch you in a gotcha moment. Like, oh, you said this was going to be there. Nobody knows anything. That's the bottom line. Xbox has been pretty good this
Now,
this year. So with the predictions, just feel free. Just go ahead.
now, would it be wrong to say you would want somebody to at least have a somewhat like grounded, well-founded prediction, not something like from out of the stars that's completely out of left field?
Well, I'll say that much. I'll say that this much. When I do my predictions, they're pretty much all grounded and they all have a little bit something behind them. Yeah, but I could say everybody on this panel also has their own connections and they have their own people and they're a part of chats and we're the most knowledgeable Xbox fans. All of us as a community, just that are on Twitter, are pretty knowledgeable, so we know what we're talking about. So it's not like we're gonna be like, they buy Rockstar and then
They bought Rockstar. Oh my God, I loved that one.
like obviously we're gonna come from a scope of what we know or what we're talking about. But I just don't want people to be like, if you feel like something, don't be afraid to afraid to make a prediction, because that's what it's about. It's about fun. At least that's what I'm gonna go from when I do my portion of my prediction.
Well, honestly, I think that's what I've always, like I was just saying, like E3, I think is more about fun and I hate to say fun and family and friends, man. Whatever you want to call. I mean, dude, I kind of get envious of some of the photos I see that people put on. I'm like, oh my God, E3 looks like so much fun.
Well,
I've never been to one. So
you might be next year, and people in the panel be next year. So that's the great thing.
I guess the problem is, though, after a while, though, some people tend to sort of get caught up in the hype created by their own channel or by people they surround themselves with, and that sort of sets you up for disappointment. Again, where you just got to keep yourself in check. A lot of it's speculation, like I said, and that's fun to speculate on what we think we might see, but we really never know. So I definitely think that's part of it. Is just you kind of say, well, I hope we see this, and I hope we see this, and you almost start thinking like, yeah, maybe we will, and then when you don't see it, you get really let down. So,
well, that happens every year. I mean, listen, we're all passionate guys, and I think that's what happens. You just detailed me every E3. You kind of set yourself up for a little bit of disappointment. But my opinion, looking at it, that's okay to do too. It's like, this is not the end of the world. It's fun. It's not. This is not. This is not politics. This is not changing people's views or changing the policies and stuff like that. This stuff is for fun. And Xbox went this year and had their E3. There was talk of not having it, obviously for COVID reasons and no fans. And it's still, from what I heard, was still hard to put together to make everything right. But yeah, this is go at it. And that's what like with Jez, like with his thing that was taken out of Discord and shown. Whoever did that was wrong for doing that, because that was told in privacy. But at the end of the day, like I said, Jez, it's okay. Like I wrote, it's okay. It's a prediction, and you're a very knowledgeable person. It's probably coming from a good place. But you know what? There's nothing wrong if that's not right. There's such a premium on Xbox fans. Like, we've been right so many times before, because we do have connects and we do have people that we know, that if we get something wrong, it's like, people just want to like hang you up and like make fun of you and say, I got you moment. Screw that. Have fun.
The noose is loose and coming for you, Tim Doug.
If you want to set yourself up for disappointment like I do, go at it. I'm probably going to say, listen, I all last 2 weeks, 3 weeks from what I've gotten was like, temper expectations. That's fine. And I did tell people that, and I'm still probably going to say that you do that. But you know what? It's the week of E3. It's coming close. If we're not excited, then there's something wrong. and I'm excited as
Well,
hell.
yeah, temper our expectations as long as our expectations are grounded. Let's really think about our expectations. We are looking for a good time. We want to know about new up and coming games and basically the roadmap for some of these brands in gaming. And that's where those are my expectations. That I just keep it right
That's
there.
fair.
That's what I'm excited for.
That's fair. Some people want
Mm-hmm.
gameplay. A lot of people I've heard complaints last showcase that there was no gameplay. So a lot of people want gameplay. Some people, like for me, and like I said, I'll talk about it in my segment. I could care, I could care less about the gameplay because I do think that a lot of it's going to show and show well, like a Forza Horizon if it comes. I don't really need to see gameplay, but if you're talking about an acquisition and buying up IPs, that's awesome stuff to me. That's what gets me. But everyone's different.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has different kind of wants, and the fun of it is that as a community we can express it to each other and have all this fun together, and that's what Xbox has done. And I'm so happy that they weren't cheap, and they're keeping the E3 alive, because if they didn't go, we'd really be dead.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely correct there, Tim. And I'm excited. I think I look at everybody in the chat; they're really pumped, and again, it's just great to have this feeling of excitement. For the past year or more, obviously the past year and a half, everybody's kind of been going through the same thing, and we need something to lift our spirits. You look at what when Xbox announced the acquisition of Bethesda back in September, everybody just, they were pumped. It was unbelievable. And then you got a showcase like this where you're going to see some new stuff. You hear chatter of new acquisitions, and it just gets people excited. I mean, you can't blame them for being that way. And honestly, like, I try to be realistic in my expectations. That's why I'm trying to set my expectations like, okay, maybe the Farm 51, something like that. Also, you got to look at where Xbox could use, more of a push, right? For example, I talk a lot about Xbox maybe wanting to focus more on the PC side of things. So maybe, like, Tim, I know you had talked about Paradox. Who was it? That publisher, Paradox? Yeah.
Paradox, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a strong rumor back 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And I don't know. I kind of think there's some stuff there that still makes a lot of sense. So I don't see why. I've heard some talk, some chatter about Konami as well, because they do have some valuable IP sitting there. But again, that's just really, really wild speculation. Either way, I guess we'll find out in a week's time. But it's exciting. But yeah, no, studio acquisitions always fun to talk about. Guys, do you think that we'll see? Obviously, Halo Infinite's going to be there in some capacity. We saw the promo come out a few days ago. It looks like multiplayer is going to be teased. Do you guys think we'll see any campaign?
I do. One of the things I've heard that I think Brian Sketcher tweeted out was people really don't know much about what they're going to show. 343 and Xbox has been really tight-lipped on this, and I think there's some murmurings that this and that. I would say at this point, you're probably going to see campaign. You're probably going to see multiplayer. Multiplayer is probably going to be more focused, but you'll see campaign. And like I said, a lot of things that you're hearing, take it with a big grain of salt, because basically Brian Sketcher was like saying that it was funny reading some of the stuff because it's just baseless, and a lot of the stuff is baseless. Again, I'm going to go in my Halo thing, so I don't want to talk about when I come to that segment. I'll go into that a little bit more, but I think they're going to have a good showing. And I do think you're going to get both. I don't think it's just going to be one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really pumped to see something. They've been teasing us with obviously these upgrades that they've been doing with showing different screenshots the past few months. months, I've been really, really liking what I've been seeing, what I've been hearing, and I can't wait to see the deep dive that they want to do, whether it be multiplayer, more of the campaign. It's just, seeing I mean, Halo Infinite did need to be delayed. I don't think there's any doubts about that, unfortunately, but I really want to play Halo again. I miss it. So, yeah. And, considering what they wanted to do to launch the Xbox Series consoles with it, it's a big shame what happened to it. But I'm glad that they took the time to, polish it out. And there's a lot of studios working on it, not just 343. So I'm really anticipating for it. I'm a huge Halo nut, as everybody knows, but I'm really excited for Infinite, and I want it to turn out to be the best it can be.
Can I propose a question just real quick, since you said that?
Possibly.
Let's look at the glass half full on this whole Halo delay, as this was actually a good thing. The launch of the Series X and the PS5 did go off without a hitch, but it was in my opinion, it was a bomb because of the pandemic. There has been numerous situations where people cannot get their hands on these consoles. They're sitting in the bottom of scalpers' basements. I mean, I just really do think that maybe the delay of Halo has almost been almost a benefit at this point, because I just really feel that not everybody would have been able to get that Halo Infinite next gen experience because of the fact of how hard these consoles have been to get. And now Microsoft has had by the time Halo comes out, they would have had over a year to kind of distribute these consoles, as many as they can, to basically provide as many people possible this next gen Halo experience.
Yeah. Let's see here. Newf, I know that you've been waiting patiently to just kind of chime in on your thoughts about Xbox's showing. What do you think, or what would you like to see at the show?
Well, first of all, how can this not be one of Microsoft's best shows? Well, let me put this in perspective for you guys. It's their first year owning a major acquisition like Bethesda. Major. That this one shook the industry. This wasn't just one studio with 2 or 3, shot in the dark kind of games. We're talking about one of the most world-renowned studios, who Bethesda notoriously always comes out and has fairly strong shows of their own with surprise games and fantastic presentation. That's the thing that for many years that Xbox kind of struggled with, is the way they presented their stuff up on stage. So now they have Bethesda under their wing. It's kind of like the best of both worlds here. I expect a great show. If the Halo presentation comes off great and the reception and the perception is good, they're going to have a phenomenal show. They learned a lot from the last one. It wasn't pretty. Like I said, we saw the aftermath, but we know that they've learned a lot since then. They brought back some big names like Joseph Staten to the fold within Microsoft. They brought in a lot of studios to help, put some spit polish on there and certainly tweak and go back and fix texturing and different things. So visually it's looking better. Is it top tier as we're hearing some articles and things? Look, it's all how you perceive the franchise. I think it's going to look dynamite. I think it's going to look a lot better than it ever did. And it's going to play absolutely amazing, because 343, that's something they have down. I have faith in that side of the coin. Phil's not going out this year. He hasn't been really tooting the horn too much over the last little while, nor anybody else like Matt Booty or Aaron, this is going to be our best show ever. And probably for good reason, and probably not because it won't be. Just because, you know what, sometimes, when you kind of tout that, you set yourself up for failure. Sometimes you're just, the best things you can say are not saying anything at all. Your wife will tell you that. Keep your trap shut and let your product do the speaking. You know what I mean? That's how it is. And I think that's what we'll see this year, is the products will do the speaking here. We're going to see a ton of games. Hopefully a lot of them are far along in development. I guess that's the big thing for a lot of us. For me, it's not about seeing tons and tons and tons and tons of games. What I think a lot of us want now is to know that the games really are close to being ready. This is not like, oh, you've seen this game and now we have no idea when it's coming out. We do want some day and dates. We at least want some expectation, or realistic expectation of when we think this game is going to be on shelves. And we also know that the pandemic really put people behind the 8 ball. I think we're all definitely forgiving, and certainly have been relatively forgiving of the stuff we've seen with game releases over the past year, especially in the last few months, where you can definitely tell that the games have certainly struggled because they haven't had a team together to properly bug fix, or perhaps, go through a lot of the the things they normally would do. I mean, it's got to be an absolute undertaking to make $1 billion game, or multi-billion dollar game, especially open world games, and so many moving parts, and not have your team together, like somebody in the next room to say, like, this needs fixing and this needs fixing, those sorts of things. But I think it's going to be a hell of an E3. I mean, my expectation, I think I'm going to be just happy with it. In the last few years, Xbox has not had a bad E3. That's the thing that people seem to forget. They've come out pretty damn strong. The key is now it's been the waiting game, right? They've got to kill that narrative. The Game Pass stuff is going stronger than ever. I suspect they're going to have some fantastic Game Pass announcements here that you can count on. They're going to blow you away with some of the stuff that we'll see in Game Pass day one. Again, more third-party deals, stuff that just kind of gets your ears up. Like, the Outriders thing kind of came out of left field and caught everybody by surprise. And the EA support that they've gotten as well through EA Play and different things. So expect big things there. I honestly, Centurion said, studio acquisition. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have a big studio acquisition in play. But as he mentioned, I don't know if they will do anything here at E3, simply because they want Bethesda to kind of have the limelight here, the shine spotlight on them, and not really take away from that acquisition. Because for a lot of people, it's almost like it's old news now, but it's still fresh. This is their first show underneath sort of one umbrella. And it's just going to be nuts, man. Like I said, it'll be icing on the cake if we get a little bit more of Fable. I don't know if we will, though, but it'd be icing if we did. Also, I'd like to see some more stuff out of Score, and that game's got to be close to coming out. Different things like that. And some of the new IPs. I don't think we'll see much from Everwild. I think that game's too far away. But, hopefully maybe a little hint at the next Forza as well, because people are really digging in and can't wait to get their hands on that. So, look, man, all in all, I am excited, and I don't think I will be disappointed. Again, just give us some great footage and just do it right. And don't fill the show up with too much BS in between. It's supposed to be like about a 90-minute show. So come out strong, come out swinging, keep the chatter and the jargon to a minimum. Do that on a Inside Xbox or some crap like that, but just keep that stuff away from E3. You don't want people snoring halfway through the show. That's not
so you don't want to see the full virtual tour of Microsoft Studios?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, but you don't but it's a great point, because this is the 20th anniversary, and somebody said this morning on Good Morning Xbox that I do expect they'll do some sort of throwback to the 20 years, like a walk down memory lane and kind of where they're heading. So I would not be surprised if they do a little bit of that. And I said one of the things that I would hope for, that it's probably unrealistic, but I think it would be really cool, is if Microsoft actually did make an Xbox Mini, the original console with a bunch of pack-in games. And I was saying, to make it even better than the previous consoles of the sorts, like the NES Classic or whatever, and the Genesis stuff, what they should actually do is make it online. And so that way you could actually say, if you're a Game Pass user, you could actually bring your account over and still be able to play the games that maybe are not installed on the system, but that are backwards compatible, sort of deal. So something like that would be really cool.
And they should have The Rock and Bill Gates come out and reveal it, just like the original Xbox.
That would be awesome. It's a smell.
Dude, the Rock is so swole now compared to what he looked like back then. He would be like 3 of Bill Gates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Newf, you brought it up.
Smell what the old guy's cooking.
Do you smell? Now, I have to ask, Newf, since you brought this up about Fable, Xbox has so many games in development that they've shown trailers for over the past year or so that, I mean, obviously they won't show everything again. Do you think we'll hear something about or see some gameplay for like State of Decay 3 or Avowed?
Yes, Avowed, perhaps, for sure. State of Decay, I'm not 100% sure with that one, but I definitely think we'll see something with Avowed. And I hope, and I think a lot of us hope as well, that we start getting actual Xbox Series representation, whether it's on the X or the S, but it's actually like footage from in-engine on this console, instead of that constant, shown on PC, because you know, a lot of times with the PlayStation shows, a lot of times that footage is, they say it's coming straight off of their console. So I'm not sure why it's always a heavy reliance on the PC footage. Like if these games are fairly close by now, you should be able to show some, some code off of the actual, hardware. Now that the tools have been out there and people have had some time to play with the actual, the dev kits, I would expect nothing less. So that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And even third-party gameplay, as you alluded to, like you talked about Scorn, which I know me and Centurion have been waiting for forever. I have a feeling we'll get a release date for that sometime soon because it would be nice to have that drop in the fall sometime. It seems like the perfect.
Dude, that game would be sick for Halloween. Or you were probably gonna say that.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just gonna say. You're absolutely right.
Sorry, I'm like all like, ooh, Scorn? What? Scorn? The only game that has like freaking multiple minutes of actual gameplay that nobody knows about.
No, you're right, and everybody's still curious about that game because I mean, it just looks very different. So that's what the allure is, right?
Well, different, gruesome, and just definitely like, it's almost, I don't want to say train wreck, but I hate to say it, but yeah, it's just so gritty and gruesome that you just don't want to take your eyes off of it. You just actually want to look at it more just to find out exactly how detailed they got with it.
But people also need to understand too, like, again, there's so many of these third-party games that were announced last year that we still need like release dates for. That's how jam-packed like they are for games. Crossfire X, for example, that game was supposed to come out I think late last year, but it got delayed, obviously, like a lot of other titles. I would imagine we would hear something like that. Warhammer 40k Dark Tide, the futuristic Vermintide, if you will. That one I'm really stoked about, but we still need to see like a full in-depth gameplay for it. What else? Bright Memory Infinite, which, it looks pretty cool graphically. I'm definitely curious about that. We also got the Gunk Stalker 2. You guys can see where I'm going with this. There's a lot of games here that we still need proper release dates for, or at least time frames. So I'm totally just really curious to see what they show as far as third party goes, and it's gonna be one jam-packed lineup because again, you got the Xbox side, you got the Bethesda side. They're gonna have a lot to show. It depends on how they do the time frame, right? The timings of everything. Are they gonna dedicate 30 seconds to this, 5 minutes to that, and so on? So I'm curious to see how everything works out here. Let's see. Do you think that we'll hear anything about xCloud at the event?
Yes, I do. I think you might hear that the Xbox Series X servers are implemented and a date when you could beta test them.
Yes, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool, actually. Yeah, because I could see them.
And I hear it's 60 frames moment where once you go on, you play off of these Series X servers, you can't go back to the old. So from graphics to load settings to just overall experience, it's much better.
And I'd be curious to hear if they talk about integration between xCloud and that Orion project that Bethesda was working on as well for the cloud streaming. I'd be very curious about that.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility too. I'm gonna give my overall summation, and then I'm gonna get going because I hear people already upstairs and they're starting to get loud. And I don't want them to interfere with this either because they think it's funny that I'm having a podcast right now. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what I think. I'm going to give you the show that I am predicting. It is not factual. It's not one-to-one. It's just some of the things I've heard and some of the things I'm putting together. And, like I said, it's just predictions, and it's a fun time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start field. They're going to show it off. I think Phil and Todd are going to be on stage together. They're going to present it together. They're going to talk about it, and I think that's the way they're going to open the show. Then I could see them transition to like a Forza Horizon 5, Forza Horizon 5 Mexico, show gameplay, give a date or give a holiday window. So I think that that's going to happen. Then I could see them showing off gameplay of Flight Simulator. I've heard that Flight Simulator is going to be the best looking console game when it releases. Out of any console, it's photorealistic. It's unbelievable on Series X. A lot of machines, PCs cannot properly run properly run the game, and or optimize the game to the way you're going to see it on Series X. Or a lot of people play it, but they play it over lower resolutions, or not everyone has the 3090 $1,200 cards. So that's going to get mass effect, mass appeal. Eat for that. Then I think that they're going to possibly go into Psychonauts 2. I think you're going to get the date of July for Flight Sim. Psychonauts 2, you're going to get a date of August. Obviously, both gameplay dates, and you're going to get Game Pass one day, day one. Then I think that they might transition into what you were talking about, Gunk, Stalker, all these games. Go into Game Pass. Maybe some big game announcements. I think that they have some Game Pass gets. Do not think Battlefield 6 will come that announcement, because that has to come later in the towards the end, so that they probably come with a proper price to do that, because they see the way the trending's going and how much it's going to cost, that type of stuff. So I don't see that there, but I do think you'll see a nice real a lot of dates on those games that we've seen. Scorn, a whole roundup of those games IP. Then I think they're going to transition to the new IP that this certain group has been working on, and I do think that they're going to announce that game. It's going to be a AAA multiplayer game, and they're going to also announce the acquisition of the studio, which will be, a big moment. Hopefully it happens. Like I said, there's predictions, nothing set in stone, nothing that I've actually heard for sure either. Like I said, take it all with a grain of salt. So, but anyway, you'll get that acquisition, and I think that there's some IPs that they're not so big, but they will be announced as well, and they'll welcome them into Xbox Game Studios. And then from there, they're going to transition to they're going to transition to third party. They're going to show some third party games running off Series X, possibly Battlefield. Maybe we will get that, if that's really as deep as we say it can be. And then I could see them after that. Now you're getting close to the later portion of the show. You're going to get, I think they're going to close on Halo. They're going to do Halo next. They're going to have a big segment of Halo, multiplayer, date, gameplay, campaign, and they're going to go into that. And then that'll be a big portion of the show. I think that at this point we're all riled up. Then you're going to get an Outer Worlds announcement, Outer Worlds 2, and Bethesda. They're going to go into a heavy into Bethesda now. Even though that they opened the show with Bethesda, now they're going into a lot of their other studios. I think you're going to get Outer Worlds 2 announcements, and possibly another announcement by them. And I do think that they will close on Project Omen, and that's the AAA rumored vampire game RPG made by Arcane Lion, I believe. It's one of their studios. Arcane has two studios. The studio that made Prey 2. I'm sure I'm missing some little tidbits. I do think that we'll have an xCloud segment where they announce beta rollout of the Xbox Server X, and they'll go into a bunch of stuff like that. They'll have Game Pass stuff, but they'll end the show on Project Omen, and I think at that point you'll have a very good show, a very solid show to potentially great show, and we'll be happy. And that's the way I see it. My personal want is that they get this announcement for the acquisition. That's what gets me going the most. That they're building into their, their studios. They're still making games. I want them to go crazy on that. I still heard that they're still going after WB Warner Brothers, so that's still possible. The studio that I've mentioned, that this is what they're buying. I'm not going to say it by name, but if you do some searching on Reset Era, search their threads, it is being mentioned by certain people, and that give or take, you'll hear about that. That's called Project Typhoon. I don't think you'll see IO Interactive. I don't think you'll see that game. I don't think that you'll see Kojima game. I do think that those are both real, and have good sourcing on that. Avowed, I don't think you're going to see. Heard it was supposed to be in the show, been pushed back because of shortages. Also heard they wanted to have Hellblade 2 possibly close the show, or just be a part of the show with the gameplay. I heard they weren't ready. Heard shortages hurt. Plus, also Xbox intends to, have content for all the big shows, Game Show Awards. If they have an XO, they'll do that. They could have easily held off on Project Dark, and they could have held off on Indiana Jones and had them at the Z3. But like as Centurion said, at Newf, they've been delivering for a while now, and they've been having announcement after announcement. This is a great time to be an Xbox fan, and there's a lot coming. There's games coming. There's gameplay coming. There's dates coming. And I think this holiday, I think Xbox is going to be the place to be. It's going to have Halo, Forza, and some of the other games I mentioned. And I think Horizon's going to get, unfortunately, it's going to get moved into Q1 2022. And all these people that are gloating about having no games now, they're going to have to answer the fact, why does Sony have games to match Halo at the holiday? So, like I said, that's my predictions. I will see you all next week. It's been a great show. And Newf, thank you for coming on. My friends are actually coming now. They're annoying me, so I'm going to go. And I will see you guys next week.
Yeah, Tim, thanks for having me here, bro. It's always good to be on a podcast with you, and can't wait to hear your feedback on everything after next weekend.
Hey, Tim.
Definitely. Like I said, I'm getting now that they're annoying me now, so I'm getting out of here.
All right, Tim. That was very in depth. Thanks a lot, buddy. Hope you enjoy the fight. A lot of information to take in there, but I think he did a very good job of explaining the reasoning behind certain things, certain announcements, and it was pretty realistic in my opinion. What Tim was suggesting, like for example, guys, I don't know if you heard maybe 6 days ago, something like that. According to Clobreel, Xbox and Bethesda will have 5 games to announce. And judging from what Tim's saying and from what we've been kind of hearing and the studios that they have, I mean, that doesn't seem out of the question now, does it? Right, Centurion?
Not to sound like a fraud, but I'm sorry, but somebody just knocked on my door. What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. No, I was just about to say, because according to Clobreel, Xbox and Bethesda have 5 unannounced games that they're going to show off. I mean, considering the amount of studios there, and the ones that we don't even know about that will be there. I mean, does that seem like a realistic expectation, like 5 new games to be announced?
I don't see why not. I mean, they own like 20 some studios now. I mean, well, that seems like a really nice number. Will I be disappointed if there's not 5? No. Would I be excited if there's more than 5? Hell yes. I'll be excited for one new game as long as it gets us all talking. Sky's the limit for me when it comes to, my excitement, because I'm not going to be over here wanting these great, glorious blockbuster games without having to, I guess in my mind, they're just not going to put them out. It takes time to create stuff. So anything that is going to be on that level, we kind of already know about. So I am looking forward to some new titles being revealed, but I'm also not expecting them to pretty much give me like 10, 15, 20 of them.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, obviously we don't know, but it does seem cool. I mean, Tim did mention Arcane's rumored project that's going to be shown, Omen, the vampire theme game. It sounds very interesting. I'm very curious about that. I mean, for all we know, we could have a Wolfenstein 3 game announced, or I'm trying to think too. I mean, Centurion, you're a big Elder Scrolls Online fella. Could you see them announcing maybe some kind of an expansion for that, another one?
What, for Elder Scrolls Online? Okay, so that would be awesome. But so Elder Scrolls Online actually is getting ready to launch their basically the Oblivion expansion pretty much on Tuesday. It's going already on PC now. June 1st was the PC launch. June 8th is going to be the console launch for both Xbox and PS4 or PlayStation on both consoles. But they did delay the next gen update for, I think, like a week from when it was supposed to come out. So we're also on the heels of the Series X update, Series S update for ESO. So I'm really looking forward to what they're going to do with that. I really don't see them kind of expanding on Elder Scrolls Online. Now, where everybody seems to be extremely laser focused on is Elder Scrolls 6. And now, for some reason, we have literally the dawning of Avowed versus Elder Scrolls. I have seen so many articles stating that Avowed could be more Morrowind-like than Elder Scrolls 6 could be. And so I'm really starting to wonder. I'm kind of curious on the long run now. Are people going to be switching from Elder Scrolls to Avowed? Or, I mean, like, because in my world, everybody's talking about Avowed.
Well, the thing is, we know what to expect from an Elder Scrolls game, whereas we have no idea what Avowed is.
Right, we don't know what Avowed is, but if we also go back to when they showed the title for Elder Scrolls 6, when they showed Fallout 76. So I want, at least from what I've heard, they really wanted to push the envelope when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. I even heard a rumor that they're making a new game engine for it. And that Fallout 76 was actually kind of like almost like their beta for testing the new multiplayer system for the game or so. I've heard so many rumors about how Fallout 76 has something to do with how they're building Elder Scrolls 6, because they're trying to do new things with Elder Scrolls 6, and they're basically testing some of this out in Fallout 76. And it's like this huge conspiracy theory, wear a tinfoil hat thing. And I try not to get too invested in it, but I do know that at least Bethesda, ZeniMax, whoever's in charge of the actual development for Elder Scrolls 6, is wanting to really kind of redefine the franchise, because regrettably, let's look at it realistically, the actual last Elder Scrolls game that was pretty much before Elder Scrolls Online was Skyrim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, if you really want to think about that, Skyrim came out on the Xbox 360. So we haven't really seen an actual grassroots Elder Scrolls game, single player experience in pretty much a console generation. through the entire Xbox One, PlayStation generation, Elder Scrolls has pretty much been an MMO.
No, that's correct. Yeah, because when did that come out? What year was it?
Oh God. So I think Elder Scrolls Online came out 2013-ish. But it was originally on PC, released to horrible reviews. People were not happy. They really tried to go down, I guess, a way of pay to play, and people did not receive that well. The game was having all sorts of issues, so they wanted it on console, and they kind of used console as their relaunch. I played Elder Scrolls Online originally on console before they had pretty much their grand relaunch of what they called the One Tamriel update, where they got rid of all the scaling and level restrictions throughout the world, because originally the game, you couldn't move around too easily. You had to stay in certain regions, and depending on what faction you were in, you couldn't leave that region. And the only way to actually experience the other parts of the game were to basically beat the main player campaign, and the dead guy at the end gives you a magical amulet to basically transform yourself into another faction to go play that faction story. And it was this huge confusing thing. And I got a chance to play it for a little while on Xbox before they completely dissolved it and made the One Tamriel, where they made everything scale. They got rid of the borders. They actually put, I think, the entire game on a main server system rather than dividing it up into separate servers based on factions. So they completely rehatched the entire thinking of the game when they put it on console.
Now, Newf, I'm curious on your thoughts, because I know you're not exactly a huge proponent of Xbox Game Pass, for example, but I'm kind of curious. We've seen, obviously, EA become a big addition to the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Can you see another big publisher at this showcase where, like EA, you could see, another one joining in and adding a whole bunch of their catalog or back catalog to the service?
Well, I think there's been long speculation and rumors that there might be something up with Ubisoft and Xbox, and that could be potentially true. I mean, they're certainly one of the biggest third-party publishers, and they have a pretty close relationship. A lot of the Ubisoft games have been notorious for having marketing deals with Xbox, things like The Division and obviously just recently AC Valhalla. So that is a potential as well. Honestly, the Warner Brothers thing has been going around for some time. And as I said, it's not likely that Xbox will drop, a big studio acquisition perhaps in the middle of the show. But what I could definitely see, and certainly something I would love to see, and it would definitely piss off one aspect of the gaming community, is right at the end of the show, they tease something, perhaps just a little glimpse of, say, a new Batman game from perhaps Rocksteady. And then they go, coming soon to Xbox exclusive, and then kind of and just leave you on a big cliffhanger and kind of be, well, what the fuck is that all about? And then, of course, in the few coming weeks, perhaps towards the end of the summer, and then they kind of say, yes, we've acquired, Warner Brothers and their licenses and their studios that go with it. And something like that would be huge. Will they do it? I don't know. Probably highly unlikely, but something like that would basically burn down the show at the end. Something like that. But as far as the Game Pass thing, there's going to be huge games coming to Game Pass. Game Pass keeps getting better by the minute. I posted in the chat a little site that they posted to me in the GMX chat. It is called GamePassCounter.com. You guys should check it out. It's pretty cool. So that's www.GamePassCounter.com. It tells you every game that's in Game Pass. 411, 900 and something if you include all the PC versions and different things, apparently. But it's a great way to keep up to date on what's in Game Pass, what's leaving Game Pass, all that kind of stuff. So it's a cool little site that was brought to my attention. I can't believe it, 411 games, but they only tout hey, Game Pass has over 100. And they definitely got some crazy stuff. coming down the pipeline for that amazing service. And like, I'll stick to my guns. It's still not for me, but I wholeheartedly endorse it for anybody else who wants to get fantastic value, that wants a really great reason to go out and buy an Xbox platform product. Game Pass is certainly the way to go. Save a ton of money and get to play some of the latest and greatest games for a fraction of the cost. It's a no-brainer. But I don't have brains. I go with my heart and my gut. That's how I roll. So, so yeah, it's all good. I don't know. I don't know really what else to say on that. But I definitely think there's another partnership, and it could be something with Sega. Those two have been kind of going back between Ubisoft and Sega. Seems to be lots of movement between their relationship and the kind of games that we've seen on the platform over the last little while. And I know there's lots of Xbox fans still hoping that things like Persona come to Xbox and different things. So you never really know. I wouldn't be surprised in the least if there's some sort of partnership and thing that's happening there.
No, that's well said there. Now, one thing that we haven't glossed over yet, which, it's kind of interesting. We talked about Bethesda. Starfield. I mean, we all kind of I think the majority consensus is that Starfield will be making an appearance, judging by their promo material. Guys, do you think we see like a gameplay trailer of Starfield, or do you think we even get like a release date or a release window for it? Because again, it's been in development for a while, and yeah, go ahead, Centurion.
I was just gonna say, I think we're gonna get some info on the game. But I think this info is going to be out of necessity, because I'm pretty sure Microsoft wants to curb some of the rumors, myths, legends that are circling this game. I just think that they probably more than likely might have a small teaser or something come up just with because I really don't see how they're going to launch it this year. So I think they're going to probably put something up that's going to have a 2022 year, at least, date on it to kind of help be like, yeah, let's just get this out of the way. It's not happening this year. That's at least what my prediction is on the Starfield thing.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Obviously, they want to show off one of the big games, getting highlighted from the Bethesda purchase that was in development for so long. So
now that's where, let's see, if I was a game like Starfield, you almost want to cautiously approach this situation, purely because we saw what happened with Cyberpunk and what can happen when you overhype a game that wasn't tested correctly. And I really just want to say that with the hype that is surrounding Starfield, that I really hope that there is a lot of playtesting put on this game and a lot of quality control to kind of curb as much as possible that could possibly happen. Because honestly, I don't want to see Starfield be Microsoft's first AAA super banger with Bethesda go off like Cyberpunk.
Well, with Microsoft behind it, I'm very optimistic.
I don't see Microsoft going to them going, hey, lie about your tests, try to fool them doing the... I don't see the structure of Microsoft being the same of CD Projekt Red, but I just want Microsoft to take the situation from CD Projekt Red and look at it and be like, we cannot recreate that situation. We need to make sure that this game is tested properly and does what we say it can do.
Yeah. Well, I think Bethesda will learn quite a few lessons themselves from the whole Fallout 76 thing. And I definitely think now that they have more resources and, of course, the teamwork, I guess you could say, of Microsoft and their services and their professionals as well. And of course, the marketing power now of Game Pass, they're not going to release Starfield like just on a whim and just kind of rush it out there. They're going to wait for the opportune moment. And I definitely think we will see some concrete footage of Starfield and kind of figure out what this game is about, so people can get legitimately hyped for a game they actually start to know a little bit about. And then we'll probably get a tentative release date, and I suspect highly it will probably be spring of 2022. I definitely won't think we're going to see it in 2021. I think they're going to let Halo do the speaking for most of their stuff for this year, because they'll want to maximize that from missing that window last year. And of course, being on the 20th anniversary of Xbox, like I said, all eyes will be on Master Chief and company. And there will be probably a few supporting games around that, but I definitely think they'll leave a lot of the big stuff for next year, just because a lot of the teams will be back full time, hopefully in their studios, and be able to really put the finishing touches on all of these games that are in development. But I definitely think we're getting closer to the precipice of seeing the floodgates open at Microsoft. Moses will open the Red Sea and the games will flood in.
I think so. I mean, again, I really want to see more concrete gameplay. I think they've heard the criticism from last year's show, even though to be honest, I did really enjoy last year's showing, even though with the complications around what's been happening. But no, I mean, they have a lot of stuff to show. I'm sort of with Tim, too, with what he said about, again, they have all these different RPGs to show off now, which is really, really nice. I think Obsidian will show something. I don't know if it's going to be, for example, Avowed or something else that they've been working on. And I'll be honest, knowing Microsoft, they might show off something for Grounded, like a new update or something. I would not be surprised.
I am actually leaning on that. I was about to comment and say, if we're going to see anything out of Obsidian, it's probably more than likely the next stage that they probably plan to do with Grounded.
But to be fair, though, they have like 4 or 5 teams working on all kinds of different stuff. I mean, The Outer Worlds 2, it's not out of the realm of possibility, or even a new IP. So I don't know.
That'd be nice to see them talk about Outer Worlds 2, because it would also be nice to finally get that out of the way of, remember when Matt Booty came out saying that he saw Outer Worlds as much of a franchise, like a flagpole franchise that Forza, Gears, and Halo are, that he almost saw that the Outer Worlds could be almost grown into a franchise like that, and he wanted to kind of keep the Outer Worlds as something special for the Xbox ecosystem. So I'm very curious on if they do create a sequel to the Outer Worlds, are we going to see a multi-plat game like it was originally?
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to bring up a comment that Newf just made in the chat about compulsion. Now, I've been saying this for a while now, and I'm still sticking to my guns. I think we'll see Compulsion's new game. I think we'll see like a CGI trailer of some sort at the event, because again, presumably they have some new games to show off, and that's one of them that has been rather silent since they've been acquired. They worked on some We Happy Few DLC, and then they moved into a new studio, and then they've just been really quiet.
Did all they do is the DLC? I thought they did the whole game.
No, they did the game. I'm just saying that once the game was released, like, they worked on the DLC after.
That game is in my backlog. I completely bought that game on a whim because I was like, this game looks strange. I'm sold.
Well, it's definitely unique. I really like the world. I think they did some really cool things. How it got put together, I don't know. Maybe the preview program didn't help so much with that. But either way, I mean, I find them to be a very dark horse studio, and I think I would love them to create something very BioShock-esque, because I know they have it in their DNA from people working at the studio. But again, they're a dark horse. We have no idea what they're going to produce, and apparently Phil really likes what they're working on, from what I've been hearing. So, I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, they're not like a super small studio, but like, they're like in between with the size. So I believe that we'll see Compulsion there. What about In Exile, guys? Because I don't know if you remember, what was it, like a month ago? Their Twitter account was like tweeting at Xbox or Xbox Game Pass or something about. They were teasing something about a first-person shooter and something else, and it was like, oh, could they possibly be working on an FPS RPG of some sort? I mean, that would be interesting. Oh.
Yeah, and X in the chat brings up a good one too that we've kind of touched on, I think, over the past few weeks. Those hidden subliminal messages from the back of Phil's cabinet about Kojima. And is there something in the works from Kojima Productions with a partnership with Microsoft? And that could potentially, and I think, well, some guys would probably dismiss it. And of course, you got to take your share of L's, because I know a lot of Xbox guys wrote off Death Stranding, Kojima and stuff as well. And whatever you feel, that's your prerogative. But you cannot deny that the name is not huge, that he brings massive swing. And it certainly would show, again, sort of that big push and commitment to the Japanese development and that influence and things like that, of trying to make more strides, in the Asian culture and the Asian markets and stuff like that, with a huge name. And of course, Kojima, with the right budgets, the right perhaps supporting teams, different things like that, you never really know what he could have up his sleeve for Xbox, and you never know as well. Like, maybe it's something they might have on the go with Itagaki, the former director of Ninja Gaiden and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff floating around. You never really know.
On the Kojima thing, you know what Kojima was doing between Death Stranding and now, right?
What's that?
He was working for Google before they canned their gaming division. He was actually supposed to do something for oh my god, what was that failed gaming device? It's escaping me.
Stadia.
The Stadia, yeah, he was doing stuff for Stadia, and they completely canned it. And, I've always said, here you are, you have a passionate game developer, a passionate artist, somebody who has an up-and-coming studio that he's put a lot of work and time in getting going, and you really think he's just going to let that vision die? No, I'm pretty sure maybe at one time Phil Spencer gave him a business card or something, and somehow these guys started talking, and, he was already in the middle, probably developing something for Stadia, so why scrap it and throw it in the trash? If you got something already, hell yeah, freaking Phil Spencer's knocking on the door. And he's got a great product right now called Game Pass that could probably help launch Kojima Studios into a whole nother level. And he doesn't have to sacrifice his studio and sell it off or get involved with other guys that kind of want to be more controlling with the IPs that go on their consoles. We've all seen that Game Pass can be used as a stepping stone for a studio to really establish itself.
Mm-hmm. And I think Death Stranding, for example, if that was a Game Pass game, it could have done wonders for a game like that. That sort of came out with a lot of that speculation and people kind of, riding the fence on it. I actually like Death Stranding. I think it's an interesting game. Is it amazing? By no means, but it definitely has a lot of things right in the game and does a lot of things that a lot of other games really haven't attempted. So you definitely got to classify it up there in more of the weird category, but an interesting game all the same. So one that I'm actually glad that I bought. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm getting closer. I got to get back to that. It's still in my backlog, but yeah, it could be a big thing. At least I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the whole Kojima thing, like, I do think there's a lot of meat to it, but I don't see him being at this event. Right. I could see him possibly being at a future EXO event, or I'll put this out there, the Game Awards with his buddy Jeff Keighley.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm glad you mentioned him, because I just make one request. The day Kojima comes out with Phil Spencer, if it happens, I want a live camera feed on Jeff Keighley. I want to see his face. I want to be like, are they going to keep it a secret like they did the Series X or whatever? All of a sudden Kojima's there with Phil. I don't know. Like, I'm just curious on how this is going to go over, just because of the fact that, Kojima has been seen as a PlayStation icon forever. And if that was to occur, I think the internet will break.
Possibly. I do like Newf's point about Itagaki, because he's been extremely silent. He's been working on something. I think he has a studio based in Rome, Italy, and I don't know, he really likes the platform. Again, he's an Xbox guy. He's on all platforms, but I'm not saying...
Why not both? But I will be truthful. You said Itagaki, right? He was responsible for which game?
Ninja Gaiden.
Ninja Gaiden, yep.
Yeah, and Dead or Alive.
I missed the Ninja Gaiden train. I'm debating on buying the Ninja Gaiden collection.
Get it.
To kind of get myself educated on this, because I'll say there was a point in time I couldn't afford a game. So yeah, I missed some great moments in gaming.
Just keep in mind, he was largely responsible for the first two, but the third one was not Itagaki. He had already left the studio, and they did Ninja Gaiden 3.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
Which is why that game kind of strayed from the formula and certainly got trashed a lot more than that. So,
well, yeah. I read like the Ninja Gaiden collection that's coming out is actually like a remake of the games, because apparently the source code for the original games was, I guess, corrupt. Like,
I don't know. I just understood it was a remaster, but
no, not like a remake, like they went in like Resident Evil. What I meant, like, oh my God, what Shockley's better at this than I am. It's not Ninja Gaiden, the original release. It's like a director's cut that was released after the original Ninja Gaiden. It has like a special symbol right next to it.
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden Black Sigma.
Yeah, the Sigma ones. And apparently, where they kind of messed with the AI of the game, and I guess made it a little bit more easier to play. And from what I've read and heard, the original versions of the games are the ones that everybody, I guess, really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
See, see, Dreadpool's actually educating me right now in the chat.
Well, either way, Centurion, I think that it would be pretty cool to get Itagaki, like, his game, even if it's not like exclusive or anything, but just like get some kind of like a marketing deal out there, because I don't know, he has an interesting mind, like Kojima, I guess, and very talented guy. So I would love to see what he could bring.
Well, I'll say this now, Vader. Xbox better get used to playing hardball and locking shit down to you, because I have a funny feeling with the way that Game Pass has been going that Sony is getting ready to step up their exclusivity crap on everything. And if these 2-year rumored, timed exclusives or anything, that's not a good look for like the industry, period. So, but you know what? If one person wants to play ball that way, then I think Microsoft should too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll start talking about the like some of the Sony stuff on the docket too, because there is some stuff to bite into there. Some of the recent talk about certain games, but just to round this discussion about our predictions, our showcase predictions and whatnot. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that either way, we're all looking forward to it, and they're gonna have a lot to show, obviously. I'm kind of curious, because this hasn't been said yet, because again, they do have quite a few games on PC, and they're making a push for that. Do you guys think we'll see Age of Empires 4 at the event in some form or another? Because that game, if I'm not mistaken, is supposed to release this fall, actually. It's a pretty big title. So could you see them having it at the show?
Which one? Age of Empires, you said?
Yeah, Age of Empires 4.
Yeah, definitely could see them having something on there. They've been talking about it for a while. And you mean like like for the console, or?
Not necessarily for the console, but it is like a high-profile game that, again, one of the Sega studios, I think it's Relic, working on it. Again, it's been in development at least for, 4 or 5 years now, and I know they settled on a fall release window, so that is one of their games that they will be focusing on going into that quarter. So, I mean, I could possibly see them putting it in the spotlight. I would just love to. I'm just curious what everybody here thinks about that. Would they show off this RTS there, or again, like, would they? I don't know. Could you see this RTS game making its way to console too?
I'll at least chime in. I'm not a big PC player, but I guess out of the crowds I talk to that do play on PC, you always hear Age of Empires mentioned. Microsoft has been touting Age of Empires for as long as I can remember, so I would not doubt that Age of Empires might, at the very least, might be mentioned, but I will be truthful. I never, ever got into Age of Empires. My actual RTS experience is mainly in Halo Wars, and that's about as far as it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, RTS is a big genre. I mean, especially like in some Western countries as well as out east. I know, like, what was it? The South Koreans are all over the RTS genre, but
I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say RTSs actually were one of the few games that actually showed me the importance of a keyboard. I always wondered who would want to play a game on a keyboard. And when you play an RTS on a controller and you are like switching through all this stuff, like, hey, I actually did not get overwhelmed playing Halo Wars. But now that I've actually seen some people actually talk about and actually show playing an actual RTS on a keyboard and actually being able to like hotkey certain commands and kind of easing it up a little bit, I can see totally why RTSs are kind of sometimes a little bit harder to do on the console side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're going to round out this talk. Is there anything else anybody else wants to add on here before we move on to something else?
No, I think I'm good. I think I've summed up everything I needed to say.
All right. How about you, Centurion?
Yeah, pretty much. E3 is going to be great. Let's just all appreciate this time with all our friends and family and talk about the great things ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. And yeah, guys, I think we'll have a lot to look forward to. That's the main thing. I'm pumped. Despite what the naysayers say, I fully expect Xbox and Bethesda to bring it. We'll get a whole bunch of new announcements, new trailers, hopefully a lot of gameplay trailers, see some new stuff. And yeah, release dates. I think that's key there too. Release dates for all the stuff we mentioned. Like, again, stuff we know about Scorn. Again, I believe we'll see Forza Horizon show up.
Yeah, especially for the games that we've seen on multiple other occasions now. Like it's time to kind of, put an expectation down for them and not just kind of, well, here it is again for the fifth time we've seen it. At some point you've got to say, well, we're expected to come first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, so on and so forth, that sort of thing. And they got to put it down for the fans at this point. So, you can start saving your money, get your pre-orders in, all that good stuff. So.
Exactly. And, yeah, while we've had a lot of stuff to play, it'd be nice to have some at least firm release windows at the very least. So, and that includes games like Flight Simulator coming to Xbox. I'm predicting, again, sometime, maybe July, as Tim was saying. Psychonauts 2, I mean, I would love it to shadow drop at this showcase, but I mean, I think August or July would be pretty realistic too. And it makes sense too, because that would lead into Forza Horizon 5. I mean, let's just say sometime maybe September or October, and then you got Halo in November. I mean, presumably that's just what I'm thinking anyways, to go with the anniversary for the franchise. But yeah, release dates would be key. But yeah, guys, that's our predictions, and we'll move on to, we will start talking about some PlayStation news, because a few days ago it was suggested on the PlayStation blog that God of War Ragnarok and Gran Turismo 7 would be cross-gen titles, with both being playable on the PS4 and PlayStation 5. Now, Newf, this has turned out to be quite the interesting topic. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think we were all led to believe that these would be, well, we were all pretty sure that they were going to be PlayStation 5, like just kind of exclusive, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's not, I don't think anybody's disappointed to know, in a sense, that they're coming to PlayStation 4 and that millions of PlayStation fans who haven't upgraded yet or can't find a PlayStation 5, which seems to be the biggest scenario, are going to be able to play, some of these amazing games. They're not left out in the cold. I mean, cross-gen stuff has been, starting to become the norm over the first year or two of a new console coming out there. And so it's not that the fact that the games exist and they're coming out. Yeah, sure, they're going to look and play, obviously, not as good as the PlayStation 5 version. But it's just the messaging. It's just, why didn't Sony be upfront and honest in the first place? I don't know what they thought they were going to lose. Obviously, they were just trying to drive a lot of hype, a lot of people to the PlayStation 5. And now I think they've realized that, yeah, these things are going to take a lot longer than they expected to get in the hands of gamers. And they're going to have to try to maximize the return on their investments with these games and these studios, which are, 5 and 6 years in development, a lot of this stuff, and millions of dollars, already in the hole. So you got to start recouping those things and stuff like that. So I'm not against it. I have a PlayStation 5, so either which way, it bothers me not in the least, because I'm going to buy the best version. Like I would do with my Xbox, I would always buy the best version available. So that's not an issue. But for other people, it certainly could be. So, again, You got to call them out on this stuff. You know, some people say it's lies. I don't know if it's as much lies. Is it just the way it's communicated and articulated, or it's sometimes, like you say, a lie can be construed as the things that they don't say. But we all heard that, you know, we believe in generations, and we believe that these games, you know, are only possible on PS5. And you can mark my words right now. And I'm willing to go out on a limb, and I'll take the L if needs be. But I'm willing to bet you that Ratchet and Clank, perhaps by next year at this time, or perhaps next holiday season, is available on the PlayStation 4. And I'll tell you why. Because I think right now, yes, they largely developed it with focus of PlayStation 5 in mind, and of course the solid state drive. But I think once Insomniac kind of settles down, the dust settles, they're probably going to try to find a way to code this properly for the PS4 and make that a cross-platform as well. I don't think they're going to hold back such a giant game like Ratchet and Clank from 100+ million PlayStation 4 users. I think they could sell a lot more copies of that game, and they'll want to do it, you know, while the PlayStation 5 sells a low install base. Because how many copies do you think any of these games can sell when you have probably less than 10 million users out there for the first, 1 or 2 years on the market, essentially? So don't be surprised if they say, yeah, Ratchet and Clank is coming to PS4 next year. They're not touting that right now, but with the way Sony's been going, I put nothing past them anymore. Like I said, they hold their cards tight to their chest, and they put out the message they want to relay. They get fans to go hook, line, and sinker, bite into it, and then they go, oh, but yeah, that's not exactly what we're doing, and all that. So yeah, Jim, Lion, Ryan. So that's what I think. But I think cross-gen is good for the first little while, but at some point as well too, you want to see, your console push its hardware muscle and basically show you why you really have invested $500-$600 in these hardware to make the games that have that look and run to the point where it's next to impossible to even run it efficiently on the older hardware. Like if you look at Cyberpunk, for example, it was started development obviously for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, but if you look at that game and the troubles it's had, it obviously, I guess you could say, it sort of has outgrown that platform. It obviously, if you look at how it ran on PC, and even with some updates of how it runs on the Series X or the PlayStation 5 compared to how it runs on the lesser consoles, like at some point in time, like the games, it's great to have the games on the older hardware, but if they're going to run like absolute trash, it's almost pointless either. Like people don't even want to play Cyberpunk on an Xbox One or PlayStation 4 with the frame rate issues. It's like going and trying to play games on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah, they're multi-plat games. They're on all consoles, but have you ever tried playing some of the Switch versions of like an Xbox One or PS4 game? They ain't pretty. Let me tell you, you got to make a lot of sacrifices, and I think developers do too. And I guess at the end of the day, it comes down to resources, right? You've got to find a team that knows how to code for multiple platforms and can able to make those sacrifices. We talk about scalability, and sure, stuff scales, but it doesn't always scale well. It's like trying to put an elephant in the back of a Volkswagen Beetle. You might get the leg in, but boy, you're gonna have to blow the rest of it up just to get it to fit. So I'll leave it at that. I don't care that they're cross-plat, but other people may have a different force of opinion on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know it's not exactly a popular topic in the chat right now. But yeah, I mean, going back a couple of years ago, the CEO, Jim Ryan, he did state that, Sony does believe in generations, and, given the recent shortages, like the chip shortages, and you look at when we're expecting to see everything to be stocked up well again, it's probably going to be over a year until we get good stock of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles, especially the Series X. It's not so much that obviously I don't care where these games end up. It's just the fact that Sony was very, very, they were hyping up these games for the PlayStation 5, and it just seems like they lied to consumers about where these games were gonna end up, seemingly. And Xbox and Microsoft, they got a lot of flack, I remember, especially from different media sites, about well, what are you doing? Because they came out and said, yeah, for about 2 years or so, we're going to support, cross-gen games. And, after that, they were out, they were touting that, and they got a lot of crap for that from different media sites. And now these same media sites, because I was looking out, there's a few articles that are being tossed around, articles saying that there's nothing wrong with Sony's cross-gen support and so on. It's like, they were so heavy-handed when it came to Xbox doing cross-gen, but they're not criticizing Sony in the same matter, right? You just kind of see the bias in there, and it's not right. Centurion, what are your thoughts on the matter?
Boy, this is totally like PlayStation. Every time they got a hold of a third-party game that they were allowed to market on, they would slap PlayStation exclusive as big as they could on the box, and in all the fine print, let you know that it was nothing more than a hat or a cosmetic item. But just through sheer deceivingness, they would try to convince people that, like we all remember with Red Dead Redemption 2, right? There was people who honestly thought that game literally was a PlayStation 4 exclusive, and Sony definitely also helped craft this idea by putting PlayStation exclusive as big as they could on the box, and in very fine print, letting you know that it was a cosmetic item.
Mm.
So basically, Sony loves to deceive people. Remember, they like to crouch down and wait. Mm-hmm. Hey, crouching down can also be a sign of hiding. And Sony, Jim Ryan, they like to hide things in the weeds. They kind of like to step between the lines and twist the truth. I'm not trying to call them outright like bad people for doing this, but this is a some companies choose this as a tactic, and this is just Sony's MO. And I'm used to this with Sony, so it does not shock me in the least bit. We all remember how Miles Morales was only Miles Morales could only be possible on the PS5, and all of a sudden, on the same day that they're advertising the PS5, this, that, and the other, all of a sudden on I think it was a website, they come out and say, "Oh yeah, the games are also going to be on PS4 and other stuff." It's like, this is what Sony does. So does it bother me? No. Is it right? No. Jim Ryan, definitely, I think it was him who came out and said, "We believe in generations." I just like the fact that at least the company that I have chose to listen to, I have listened to them for so long, Xbox, because I like the way Phil Spencer speaks. I like the message they put out. And for the most part, Xbox doesn't really try to kind of deceive me and kind of twist the truth a lot. And they also like to listen to their fans. We all saw when they tried to raise the price of Xbox Live, and they kind of went back on that. PlayStation, on the other hand, I feel like tries to do their own thing. They try to hold to, we are number one in gaming, so we should be able to kind of direct the market and to try to put people in I don't like the fact that they're confusing people just to potentially get PlayStation sales, when Xbox shows that you can have a really successful business in gaming without having to rely on profits from console sales. We all found that out with this whole debacle between Epic Games and Apple, where Microsoft had to reveal a few things, and it came out that Microsoft actually doesn't get little to no profit from the hardware sales of the Xbox consoles. I go on about this. I'm just used to PlayStation being PlayStation. So for me, this is just PlayStation doing its thing, normal, every day.
Now, these are some pretty big, heavy hitters. God of War, Ragnarok, and Gran Turismo 7. And, again, I would have expected these to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5. So I'm just kind of, I don't know.
So I have a theory that the only reason why this is possible for these games to be on the PS, I think maybe the original intention was to probably keep them exclusive to the PS5. Maybe, air quotation marks. The main reason that it is possible for these games to show up on the PS4 is because a long time ago, when somebody was putting pen to paper and discussing this game and how they were going to build it, that conversation came up. Do we want to make this game PC specs? And we know a very large portion of PC gamers are still using mechanical hard drives. And if basically you have to know what kind of hard drive is going to be used in the construction of this game for this game to exist. And if the game was made for a mechanical hard drive, then the game is scalable and able to appear on other stuff. If the thing was made for an NVMe hard drive, I'm questioning how does a game all of a sudden become able. From what Microsoft and all these other companies say, if a game is designed for an NVMe SSD, it cannot be scaled down to work on a standard hard drive, which is why games that are optimized for an Xbox Series X and a PS5 have to be specifically played on those hard drives, those specific consoles, because they're the only ones that can process the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's where I'm just questioning. I'm just saying, like, this is no accident that these games are cross-platform, have cross-platform compatibility. I think they did it though to keep that door open for the PC crowd, because we see Jim Ryan and Sony have a huge interest in PC. All of a sudden, they see the money that Microsoft is making, and I really do think that they are keeping the door open to have games show up on the PC, and the only way to do that is to make sure that your games can work on pretty much the main hard drive that's used in PC gaming, which is a mechanical hard drive.
100%.
Now, with that too, we also got news of God of War Ragnarok being delayed to 2022. I mean, I would say that was kind of expected, guys, because I mean, again, like, a lot of studios have had to, you know, again, because of the situation, right, not being able to get to certain equipment, certain studios, and so on. You know, a big studio like Sony Santa Monica working on such a large title. I mean, I just always figured that it was going to be a 2022 game, so that doesn't surprise me at all. But with that said, I mean, a lot of things seem to be getting pushed now to 2022. What do you guys think that PlayStation's next big title will be in the fall?
Like for this fall?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great question.
Because
they got at the end of the summer. At least they got the timed exclusive. Was it Kina Bridge of Spirits that comes out towards the summer?
Mm-hmm.
After that, I'm not really sure what we can expect, but they got to have something into that fourth quarter to kind of end out their leery. At least you would think they would. You know, like I said, I don't think anybody is 100% surprised with the delay of God of War. I certainly am not. You know, like when they even announced it, when they just announced it, they just said God of War. Okay, cool. But the fact that it went God of War 2021, that's where they kind of shot themselves in the foot. You know, you kind of question now, did they already have that plan before the COVID thing kind of happened where, okay, we're gonna put that out there? And I don't think they necessarily did. I thought at some point somebody had the expectation that maybe it could be 2021, but with everything that's been going on, it's just not feasible. The other side of the coin, if the game had have come out in 2021, my next question would have been, would this been a God of War that's an authentic sequel, meaning like a new environment, new story, the whole nine yards, or would this have been a Miles Morales scenario? Because like you can say what you like, Miles Morales is its own game. I get that. It's long enough to warrant being its own game. But the reason Miles Morales was such a fast turnaround is because one, it used the exact same engine, and two, it was the same city. It was a copy and paste New York City. It didn't take Spider-Man to a different place or different locations. It was pretty much almost, you know, pixel for pixel, polygon for polygon, the same New York that was left in the first Spider-Man game. So really, all he had to do was change the costumes, obviously design the trailers in between, like the story-based narrative. Like, obviously, yes, it still took a lot of work, but far less than having to build a game from the ground up from scratch, if you guys know what I mean. It's the same reason the companies can turn around a sports game every year, because you don't necessarily have to build a game from the ground up every time. You just copy and paste, you know, put the same resources back in and just change a bunch of shit. And that's really what Miles Morales turned out to be. Some people will say, like I said, it's DLC. Call it what you want. I enjoy the hell out of it. and I got lots of hours in. I got more hours in a Miles Morales than I got on some full-fledged games, but I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying that if God of War had to come out, is that what we would have saw, was basically the same environment reused with just new story-based narrative in there, and that's possibly what we could have got. I think we will see kind of a completely new game, but it's still going to be set in obviously the Norse mythology and that particular stuff. So hopefully it comes out next year, but you know what? We don't even know that. Like, I'm not 100% convinced we'll even see God of War in 2022, to be honest with you. We really don't know until we see something concrete. We see, footage of it running in engine and more stuff. We don't really know how far this game technically is out.
Yeah, that's correct, because like you said, back in September, they'd only shown like a little quick reveal trailer. It didn't show anything.
That's it.
Yeah, just the name. That was it. So, and yeah, for how long it takes to develop these games, God of War came out in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I would say a 4-year turnaround sounds a little more realistic, or maybe 5. I mean, for that kind of a studio too, to just really nail things down. So, let them take their time, I say. Oh, yeah. Good comment here in the chat, Mauricio Avas. Deathloop. Yeah, that's right, because Deathloop, I think, got pushed back to September, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to be a timed exclusive for, 6 months, if I'm not mistaken? I want to say 6 months. Maybe it's a year. But they do have that. Now, we did just have Horizon Forbidden West gameplay showing off back, a week ago? I mean, again, they didn't have a release date for that by
November.
any means. Do you think it's going to come out in November?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's coming out. I think it's coming out next year, but it was actually on one of the videos or somewhere stated it was November 30th, somewhere along the line.
That would be interesting. Actually, I could see that being, even if it was supposed to be November 30th, I could see it being pushed back to February, March, something like that. I mean, personally, anyway, just because, again, how the development cycles are going on right now, the stuff that these studios have to go through, it would not shock me in the slightest. But I don't know, guys. Either way, just interesting developments on the PlayStation side of things. Obviously, I have a PlayStation 5. I'm invested in the PlayStation ecosystem. I want a lot of good stuff to play. It's just kind of interesting, again, with all these cross-gen talks and whatnot. And there's lots of delays. So, hopefully we get some news soon on that front. But all right, guys, on our last topic of the evening, we'll continue with this PlayStation theme. And we're going to move on to an interesting rumor making the rounds. And according to our buddy Nick over at Xbox Era, he said that according to his sources, it's that the new BioShock that's in development, BioShock 4, if you will, it doesn't really have a name at this point, would be exclusive to PlayStation. No word on length of exclusivity and all that, but that's a very big heavy hitter being mentioned there. You know what, Newf, we've seen Sony go out in recent years buying up exclusives. Take Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example. Could we see them securing a new BioShock title for either a timed exclusivity, or, I mean, I don't want to say full on, but can you see them putting up the cash for that kind of a game?
100%. 100%. I can totally see Sony doing it, and I'll tell you why, because Game Pass has definitely put the fear in them. The bottom line is, half of this industry is not just about sales, it's about perception. It's like I said, and Centurion kind of weighed in on it when he said, about you look at the whole the whole Red Dead Redemption thing with the exclusivity on the box, right? It's how things are perceived. You see those words and you see the marketing that comes with it. And no different for Xbox. Like with the Outriders, for example, Outriders almost felt in most ways like it was an Xbox exclusive. Even though it was a multi-plat, all of the publicity really revolved around Outriders, the fact that it was day and date on Game Pass. Microsoft obviously ponied up the dough to get that there. And I think Outriders got a lot more success than it would have normally have gotten if it was a full physical release that was just sold out for $70-80 a pop. So I totally can see Sony doing this. And I think that was wholeheartedly the reasoning behind the Final Fantasy thing. I think last year, sure, the intentions were to bring Final Fantasy VII out for the Xbox as a multi-plat, and it may come out eventually. But I think once they saw that Xbox is gaining steam, and especially the Bethesda thing, that really changed the landscape for them, because now they're like, wow, the Xbox legitimately wiped 7 or 8 major franchises off the table for us, if you think about it, right? And Microsoft has the choice to do what they wish here, is to keep them back or let them go multi-plat. And again, it could be a case-by-case basis. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's just say that they do. Let's say they keep Elder Scrolls off, and they keep the Wolfenstein off, and they keep Doom off, and so on and so forth. Well, how does Sony counter that? If they don't have the money to go out and buy other studios, well, obviously paying for an exclusivity for 2 years is not costing you $7 billion. It's going to cost you some major moolah, but it's a short-term investment, and it keeps a lot of people either in the PlayStation ecosystem or hyped for the PlayStation, because Final Fantasy, as we know, is a relatively large franchise. It certainly does very well in Sony's native land, and even over here, right? So sure, they're going to toss money at anything and everything that's not locked down at this point, because they want to make sure that Microsoft doesn't have a day-and-date formula coming for those games. Even if it's Game Pass 3 or 4 months after it comes out, it's still a huge boon for Game Pass and subscribers. And we've all seen that PlayStation Now, while it is a good service in its own right, is still largely lacking behind Xbox. Even with the bigger install base, it is way behind where Game Pass is actually at right now. Sony sees the money that Microsoft is making, hence the whole PC thing, right? They want a piece of that pie. They're no longer going to sit back and go, well, our game's success is indicative of how many consoles we sell. They still want to sell the console, and I believe they're more focused on that than Microsoft is and probably ever will be. But they want to get, like I said, that's their counter. They're going to go after that. They're going to toss money at it, and it's going to stick for them. And Microsoft is going to have to say, like I said earlier in the show, they're going to have to play some hardball here. They're going to have to do their own thing. And BioShock is a name that I think that most of us gamers certainly know and love. It has a lot of fondness for that franchise. 2K and Sony have had a pretty tight relationship for a few years now on various things. And I could definitely see them going after it, because even if it is, the 1 year thing sucks in itself, but the 2 years, basically 2 years, it's like no average person that really wants to play a game. That's the thing. No average person who really wants to play a game wants to go, oh, fuck, I'll wait 2 years for the Xbox version. Like, I couldn't do it. Like if that was Tomb Raider, for example, I love Tomb Raider. I would have to go, you know what? I have to go out and buy a PlayStation for this game, because there's no way I'm waiting 2 years to play it on my preferred platform. And I think people feel the same way. I know people that bought PlayStation 4s simply for the Final Fantasy VII remake. As a matter of fact, it was a big reason I went out and got another PS4 like a while back, was because of that game and various other things. But like, I was like, man, I'm not waiting. I don't have the patience. Like, my backlog is growing. So yeah, they are going to toss some serious coin at it, and Microsoft's going to have to watch this thing considerably, because like I said, they're going to try to keep those games away from Game Pass, because we know that Microsoft's damn well going to try their best to put as much stuff in there as they can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that too, because you look at what they did with, again, another Square Enix game, that new IP Project at the Forspoken, that's the name of it. Forspoken. That's right. That new IP, I think they have like a year or 2 years on that Correct. One too. And as you said, they're, a lot of it is in response to Xbox with Game Pass, and hey, that Bethesda move, man, that, like you said, you said it very well, that that took about 7 or 8 IP, very big IP, off the table for them, whether it be Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Prey, Dishonored, and so on. Like, there's a lot.
Do you agree with Others Inc. in the chat? He says BioShock is not big enough to make one person buy a PlayStation 5 to play it. I think he's completely wrong there.
Others Inc., I do really appreciate your opinions all the time. You're a great sight in the chat, and I really mean that. However, I will say I have to disagree, though. BioShock is a pretty big name up there. and that's why I find this to be a very curious rumor because, going back to the original BioShock, it was a title associated with Xbox. I mean, it helped bring to prominence the Xbox 360. And, like when Microsoft was being very, very aggressive right at the beginning of that gen. And I tend to believe the guys over at Xbox era, considering they've been right about quite a few things in recent months, whether it be with Game Pass or a whole bunch of other news that eventually came out. So, when these guys say something, I immediately listen. And BioShock is an absolutely huge IP. I mean, BioShock 1, I'm in love with that game. That, like, to me, they just really nailed it. BioShock 2 is all right. BioShock Infinite, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I know, like, some other people are kind of like iffy on it too, but others loved it. But yeah, I would really love to revisit BioShock, and I'm very curious to see where they go with a fourth installment. If Sony did get exclusivity on it, that would be I have to say it, that would be a very big win for them. I mean, guys, tell me in the chat, like, are you huge BioShock fans there? Would you be sad to see that go to PlayStation exclusivity for any length of time? Centurion, I would love to know your thoughts. What do you think about this rumor making its run around the rumor mill? Could BioShock be possibly exclusive, the next one to PlayStation, like for like a year, however long it could be?
Well, I will never rule out the possibility of anything. I mean, everybody has their price. Now, whether or not PlayStation is wanting to pay that price, how about not able to reach that price, but is willing to pay whatever number they throw out? Here, I just say that because we see a lot of developers that prefer games to be multi-plat because they see a lot of money left on the table, at least in my opinion. So it would be very shocking to me if they did that, considering the entire franchise has been multi-plat since its dawn. It would be a very big shock. I'll at least leave on that one. I wouldn't know what to say if it was even a 1-year exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Right. And again, this is interesting because they see, Newf made the great point, because again, they see Xbox buying all these studios for the past couple of years now. They have to be very, very on the ball here. I mean, sure, like, I will never say anything against Sony when it comes to their studios, because they do have a really nice stable of studios that they have. But now Xbox, they have quite the rival. I mean, you look at their pedigree and their stable now, and Sony must be realizing that, hey, we better not just, sit on our laurels here. We got to do something about it. So,
Well, the thing is, your own first-party software can only come out so fast, and you got to have something to close those gaps between the time Horizon comes out and God of War is there. You know what I mean? That's 6 or 7 months. Sometimes you can lose a fan in that gap, right? That's a console sale loss. That's a subscription service loss. So they got to keep that going. And that's wholeheartedly why Microsoft invested, because they'll have enough studios that once these games start coming now, we should see a fairly consistent cycle of constant content coming out. Now, whether it's all like AAA, absolutely blow your mind, or it kind of ends up being a little bit more middle of the road, that in turn is not the question. But the bottom line is, you keep people on your service when you have lots of content. It's the Netflix formula. Netflix doesn't always have amazing everything, but have you seen how much Netflix content they pump out now? It's absolutely astounding. And that's what keeps people like, yeah, I think I'm going to keep my subscription, because there's always something new.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, I'm kind of predicting the next title to be named after our panel member, Shockley there. It'll be called BioShockly. It's set in Indiana. You go to the Indianapolis 500 and race around. No, but either way, guys, I'm curious to see how this unfolds. I mean, I have a PlayStation 5, so it's not going to affect me a great deal. However, I mean, obviously, I don't want to see this taken away from Xbox fans, and I would much prefer to play it on the Xbox platforms. So, yeah, just something to keep an eye on. It seems like it's still far off in any case, so Well, we'll see what happens there. But you know what, guys?
I think I was just gonna say real quick. I think any exclusive deal right now would have to be heavily considered on the fact that, okay, we're gonna be exclusive, but now does this mean we're next gen exclusive or cross-platform cross-gen exclusive? Because we all see the problems of trying to get consoles in people's hands. Who would really want to kind of like corner themselves into that situation?
Well,
I'm
yeah.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, mark my words, Sony is going to try to nail down something with Rockstar and the next GTA. I'm telling you right now, I can see the writing on the wall. I'd be shocked if they didn't. It'll come at a large price, but for Sony, they'll think it's worth it. Because if they can keep GTA away from Xbox for even 6 months, it's a huge boon for them. Could you imagine how many PS5s they would sell in a 6-month span if they can lock down GTA 6? It would be astronomical.
You go out to Sony headquarters and they have completely sold the lawn, the bushes, the whole place is nothing but a dirt parking lot. Be like, we leased everything. Trust me.
It'll cost a lot of money but you know what? Because either which way the game's going to sell. Like even if it stays off Xbox for 6 months and then it comes back, so it's going to sell on Xbox. That's not the question. But it's that whole exclusive, that branding that they get to put on their box. And if they can do it for even a limited period of time, it probably wouldn't be 2 years, not on a Grand Theft Auto game, but just think even 6 months is a massive. If Victor Alistine says it never going to happen, you should never say never. We never thought Sega would close their doors either, but look what happened there. And then they ended up putting games on Nintendo. So I never say never, man. Sony knows how to play ruthless when they want to. And this, like I said, this Bethesda thing, man, really changed the landscape for them, and they know it. They're going to come out hard.
Rockstar Games will come out on stage. We bought PlayStation. It'll be exclusive for 6 months.
Yeah, the GTA team bought them. That's who it was. Not just Rockstar.
We own PlayStation now.
It's the other way around.
They got 6 months exclusive. How's that working for you, Jim? You see the guy wave off stage.
I gotta have to agree with the guys in the chat here. I don't know if they would go that route for GTA or whatever iteration it may be. I could see them though lock down something maybe a little smaller. Like, I don't know, there's been a lot of talk about a bully game in the works of some sort. Maybe they could lock that down, or a remaster of some sort. Something maybe a little smaller in scale, but Take-Two is very friendly with Sony, so I mean, I would not put it past them to have some kind of an exclusivity deal for something in the works. Who knows? Maybe Agent will make a reappearance, right?
Perhaps as a GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas remaster that's exclusive for 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
And while on a smaller scale, could definitely still be a huge boon for sales for them.
Yeah, a remaster of something would actually, I could see something like that play out.
On the release of Grand Theft Auto 6, you buy Grand Theft Auto 6 and you can get a remaster of a game exclusively on PlayStation for free.
Yep. There you go. I think you might have hit the nail on the head. Buy it for PlayStation and get that for free.
Yeah, you see, now that is something creative there, and that's something that I could see them do. That would drive sales for sure. But you know what, guys, I think on that we'll start kind of wrapping things up here. And honestly, some really interesting takes tonight, gentlemen. Some really unique takes that, hey, could possibly come to fruition, when it comes to Xbox and Bethesda showcase predictions. Thankfully, we don't have to wait too long for that. Only, 7 days, actually a little bit under 7 days to go now, looking at the time. For next week, we'll be doing the show during our regular time. And you know what? We look forward to seeing all of you here discussing anything and everything that comes up during the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. And hey guys, if you happen to enjoy our chat tonight, then consider subbing to the channel, leaving a like, and sharing this out over your social media of choice. Newf, buddy, thanks for dropping by tonight. You're always welcome here, my friend, always. Where can everybody follow you at?
Absolutely. Well, you got an outstanding chat. And speaking of, Victor Allison just dropped you a super chat.
Whoa, Victor. Nice stuff, guys. Yeah, Victor with the $5 super chat. The big companies go multi-platform. They charge through the roof, and they would consult Xbox if money is the same thing. Agreed, I'll never say never. Yeah, I hear you, buddy. Money talks, especially with those big companies, so I would not be surprised.
Yep. And if Google Stadia had to put more money on the table when they started, maybe it'd still be around. But the fact that they thought they could have the kind of a worse service and try to sell you the same damn games that just came out on the PlayStation and the Xbox with very little marketing, it's sort of the biggest surprise to me, because I really did think that Stadia was going to be sort of a heavy hitter per se. There was a lot of things that I think Stadia did right, and there was a lot of potential for it, even though you might say, maybe they jumped the gun, but my God, man, like Stadia could have been a lot bigger than it was, but it was really mishandled, and rushing it to market with not enough exclusive software was a huge mistake for them. So I think, like I said, they jumped the gun, and I think it largely come back to kick them in the butt. So trying to be first sometimes is not always good in the video game market race, that's for sure. But thanks, Vader, for sending the invite. It's always a pleasure to be on TXR with you, man. And like I said, you're my game dosage buddy for life. Hopefully one of these days we'll be able to convince Glitcher to finally get on a show together. I think the last time I was supposed to get him on one of my podcasts, he said, "I'm finally in, I'm coming." And sure enough, last minute he backed out. So it's become one of those things. What is I renamed him now? It's not Attack the Glitcher, but you can count on the Ditcher.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what was it? It was like a month and a half ago. It was you, me, Jago, and he was supposed to show up, but what can you do?
Yeah, but anyways, great guy. Shout out to Glitcher. But thanks for having me here, man. It's an absolute blast. And Tureen, it was good to be on with you. Tim Dog as well. Too bad Shockley didn't make it, but it is what it is. I guess life happens. But always a pleasure to be here. Hope you guys have a fantastic week, and certainly a great show next Sunday. It's going to be a busy one. I think we're all going to be, barking up the same tree next week. Going to be podcasts coming out the Yin Gang, all sorts of takes. We're definitely going to get some great ones, and we're going to get a lot of negativity, which comes from the territory. So brace yourself, guys. The PlayStation kick to the balls is certainly coming for sure. I can already hear it now. Halo Infinite looks like trash. Look, they put some makeup on Craig. He looks a little bit better, but he's still ugly. You're going to get all that bullshit. But anyway, avoid the noise. And, bring the hype, baby. I'm excited, man. It's going to be good times, and I'm looking forward to that. And besides, like I said, you can find me, Newf Nukem 76 on PlayStation Network, Gaming After Dark, Tuesday nights at 10 Eastern, 8 Mountain Time, with Middle-Aged Game Guy and Titan Drago. And then on Sunday mornings at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain Time. Yeah, it's an early rise. It is Good Morning Xbox. And next week's show on Sunday will be right after the E3 Xbox presentation ends. So we're going to be probably competing with about every party and their dog and their babies and everything else. But we're still going to try to do it. I've never actually hosted my own thing on my channel after an E3. So we're looking forward to it. So it should be a good show. But anyway, guys, thanks for having me here. I'll get out of here and let you guys have a good night. So boom, boom, kaboom, leave it a room. Take care, everybody.
Yeah, good night, my friend. Always having a fun time with you on the panel, and you bring lots of great energy and the facts, to say the least. So thank you very much for coming on, Newf. All right, moving on to, the other TXR regular here, Centurion Buddy. Hey, really good stuff tonight, pal, as per usual. Loved your commentary. Where can everybody follow you at?
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. It was an absolute blast tonight. And yes, anytime I get to be able to do a show with Newf Nukem, it is definitely something I look forward to. Every time I get, you were actually on one of the first podcasts that I ever got to be on, so it basically brings back memories every time. But enough about that. For those who want to find me, Please find me at Centurion1307 on YouTube, Twitter, and of course Xbox Live. You could also find me every Saturday night on the Shop Podcast, and you can also find me right here every Sunday night on the TXR Podcast.
All right, well said there, Centurion. Yeah, Tim Dog had to leave early because of the fight, and Shockley unfortunately could not make it. But naturally, guys, to round this out, this is Invader, and you can find my content over at YouTube at Invader Gaming. Stop by and check out my most recent Necromunda Hired Gun videos. I should be having a review out at least, well, under a week in any case. But again, guys, very entertaining show tonight, folks. And we look forward to seeing you here next Sunday for the big Xbox Day. Good night, guys. Have a good one. And, be prepared for next week. See ya.